could you envision a world where the gene editing technology becomes so powerful that you could do it to a person who is already fully formed?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
this is what I predicted. Everyone's going to look like Thor.
It's
going to be a bunch of Chris Hemsworth and Jason Momoas, and no more people look like you and me.
Yeah. Wait.
Over,
so Chris is one of our investors, and I always think we look just like each other.
But you got to imagine if that becomes a reality. Like what we're doing today just with plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Right? Like let's take
or
South
the
Korea,
GLP-1s.
for example. Yeah, GLP-1s. But that's achievable, right? What GLP-1s are doing is achievable through hard work.
Yeah.
But like what they're doing in South Korea with eye surgery, like it's ubiquitous. Like so many people are getting this weird surgery where they have these K-pop eyes.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a strange thing.
It's a strange thing. And if that's just primitive cutting and sewing tissue artistically, right? But if people can decide what they're going to look like, what their intelligence is going to be like.
Yeah, it's a eugenics
now
world.
We're really playing God.
No, that's playing God to another level, right? And that's this eugenics world where we know, right? Like I just had a child, and typically, I'd say if you go through the IVF process, which we went through, you typically can test for certain types of issues like along the pregnancy, right? Mm-hmm. And when they put the embryo in, they look at kind of the morphological grade. Well, now there's new companies out there, one of which I use, which after I used it, I was so impressed, I invested in it, called Orchid Health. And they actually take cells from the developing embryo on the very outer derm, right, on this thing that doesn't affect the embryo development. They culture those cells, and then they're doing full genome sequencing, right? And so we had a handful of embryos. And so not selecting, they don't let you to select for like eye color or height or anything. But outside of the kind of the core, is there a mental issue or is it compatible with life, which is what most people test for, you can now, ethically and transparently go figure out, does it have any predispositions to certain things, right? So like, if diabetes or certain types of cancers or Alzheimer's runs in your family, you can now get, a lot of that's environmental, but you can still get a distribution score so you can understand what are the genetic factors in that. So that's today. So that's not like 20 years in the future. That's not Gattaca. That's today.
Wow.
And I mean, we did that because I found out during that sick period that I have a gene mutation which affects the Titin gene, and I created truncated protein. So I am more susceptible to diseases, including the first true round of COVID that was a lab leak that attacked my heart.
Wow.
And so I didn't want to be able to pass that on. So we screened for that, right? But that's not a standard thing. So, but that's a today thing. Like 2 years ago, that technology existed and is now prevalent, and people are using it.
So you understand the technology better than most. Conceivably, what could be done that would, in the future, allow people to change their very shape and it literally like change everything about them, change their intelligence, change everything?
I think it starts with neuroenhancers, and I think and this is the biological perspective. This is not even the computer brain interfaces merging with AI, that whole world, which I think that world has a lot of traction and is scarily getting a lot of traction pretty quickly. But I think it starts with things like health span, where it's like the very vain stuff. So like skin elasticity, hair. All of that, eye color, I think all of that is changeable, and not in like there's a company right now, I forgot the name of it, that spun out of Harvard that is making patches using microneedling patches that you can't even feel the needles, right? And delivering a custom stem cell for you that can help like replace your melanocytes for hair and for skin. Wow. And so you can have 30-year-old looking skin when you're 85 years old.
What?
Yes. So, and the same thing for hair, right? The reason why our hair
that's going to be real soon.
Yeah, that's the speed of which I think the two biggest barriers for healthcare around genetics and longevity is going to be the FDA process and not the technology. I think it'll be a process problem. We saw that with Operation Warp Drive, right? We saw how fast things could move if people really wanted them to. So I think that's number one, and I think that you're going to have the ethical pushbacks on this.
So regulatory and ethical, those are the two hurdles, but right now the technology exists.
Yeah. Well, the other biggest thing, and this is kind of for the folks that are deep in longevity, they'll tell you the biggest issue with longevity is that it's not currently classified as a disease state.
Right.
It's just, and so they're not
Right.
getting NIH
Right.
funding.
Right.
They're getting all that funding's going to other random stuff. But people aren't focusing on longevity. That's why you've got, like, if you've seen anything that like Bob Nelson's done. Bob started Arch Ventures, and he's like arguably the number one biotech in the world, and he's working on epigenetic reset, so resetting your clocks at a cellular level. That's what Jeff Bezos and them have. They're doing at Altos Labs.